Who has ever left a degree as an inheritance for their children? Who has left a piece of paper, a PhD, and says, who eats a piece of paper? So the quality of our learning has not taught us to put our hands, convert those papers into more fire, into cell phones, into cars, into cameras, into clothes, into and make the world that we need. And so we cannot complain while we're in far countries that the country is not what we're waiting for you. You are there in the countries, in South Africa here, in Europe, working in those strategic companies, pharmaceuticals, constructions, engineering, hospitals, and etc. And you tell me that with all that knowledge that you have, you can't come back home and make it good. You can't come back, even if you collect a bit of that information, how to run an old age home if you're in Britain, and come back to Zimbabwe and try and build an old age home. We always say in good English, a man with one eye is a king amongst the blind. So the small knowledge that you have received from the countries where you are, it's high time you come and bring it here. And this one is for all the Americans and all our brothers who are in diaspora. Employees, I almost said we're manufacturing fools. We're manufacturing midgets. We're manufacturing intellectual dwarfs who glorify themselves with the number of certificates on the wall instead of the number of products on the table. So our obsession with how many. So which graduate school did you go to? And then we gloat over this. It's time we start now focusing at the African continent as the next biggest thing that the world has ever seen. We still host here 90% of the world's reserves and resources in all fraternities. We here, our country is more than 30 million watt miles of land, and we're only 1.3 billion, the least populated continent on the whole world. And yet people are saying, Africa is overpopulated, Africa is overpopulated. Just shut up a little bit. You don't know what you're talking about. We are only 1.4 billion on a 30 million kilometers of land. China is overpopulated. Look at their population vis-a-vis their land. Look at Europe vis-a-vis their land. In Namibia, for example, we have one of the biggest countries uninhabited. Bushes and sand, hundreds of kilometers. So how can you be telling us that the United Nations policy of the world is getting overpopulated? We need to reduce Africa, contraception, family planning to reduce the population when there is so much land. I mean, just drive out of Vereeniging for crying out loud. Just drive out into Carltonville here. Just drive out into Gezina here, or Mpumalanga, in any direction. Tell me 10 kilometers out of town, what do you see?
Land. Multiple land and kilometers and tens and hundreds of kilometers of land. It's just land.
With no one there. And then someone tells us that we are overpopulated. I mean, some of these narratives needs to be corrected. It's you overpopulated over there, not us here. And don't make your problem our problem. At the end of the day, you want to reduce us here. Why? Because then you can have more access to our resources, and then you can benefit your own countries. And Africa, for the longest of time, has become a resource supplier instead of a product supplier, finished product supplier. And until we begin to produce products, we can't talk employment. So our governments, I beg them, our governments, stop politicking. Take it from me. Become a dictator and a rebel. Take the government taxpayers' money. Go to China. Buy factories that manufacture chairs, tables, beds, car parts. Bring those factories here. Go to Rustenburg, go to Daphne, go and get some iron ore. Pour those things into these casts. Produce final products. You cannot be failed to produce chassis for cars, or just lights, or handbrakes, or skins just for the cars. But that's where employment happens. And once employment happens, you don't need to build people RDP houses. People can build themselves the houses that they want because they have access to the economy, and they have access to the bank, and they have access to their own salaries. So the whole economic development must not be a handout kind of an economy where we're giving you SASA. Next thing, you're queuing for a house. Here's a house. You're killing people. Who says I want to stay in one small little room? That's why you find that if you need to drive around Johannesburg, people are invading farms just outside Johannesburg. But guess what is painful? Ask me what's painful.
What's painful?
people are invading land. But the size of the land they're invading is equivalent to the mkuku that is in their head. They don't invade 1 hectare. They don't invade 2 hectares and say, hey, Majens, hey, Sengila. They are all invading Mukuku land, where you can only put two metal sheets.
You've already invaded. Might as well just take a bigger piece of land.
You may as well just take it.
Because it's enough for everybody.
I mean, Maponga Orange Farm, across the I actually stood on the side of the road with my gents. Now, umhlaba uyabaleka usuka la uyofike Lebanon. Kodwa you are still invading 5 meters by 2 meters. And now the people burning those things. One leaves their heater on, the whole bush catches fire. So it's not even about. And Malema must also start saying these things. And I'm saying so very selectively. You must start saying these things.